Welcome back to Unconventional Episode 7. This is part of Justice Action Network's limited series on criminal justice reform and the role it plays in our politics. But for this episode, we're going to get beyond politics. We're honored to welcome author and advocate Kelly Ashby Paul in conversation with Brian Lewis and John Calloway from Hope House Ministries in Bowling Green, Kentucky. They're going to talk about Hope House's innovative recovery model and how they address the educational, spiritual, emotional, and physical needs of their residents. So take it away.
Thank you so much for having me here today, Carrie. I'm honored to be here with you all. Rand and I first got involved with Hope House about 18 months ago. We were invited to tour the facility here in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And by Rand, I mean my husband, Senator Rand Paul. And we toured, and we were so impressed with the work that they were doing and how great a need there is for this type of facility, not only in Bowling Green, but around the country, not only to help formerly incarcerated people, but those who have had ongoing addiction and mental health issues. So we are thrilled that the organization has received help from Coalition for Public Safety to expand all the great work that they're doing here in Bowling Green, and that they've also recently opened a new facility for women. So I guess I'll just kind of get started with some questions for Brian. So he can kind of better explain than I can all the things that Hope House Ministry do and how you personally got into the work with Hope House.
Thank you so much, Kelly. I appreciate that introduction and your partnership and Senator Rand's partnership, Senator Paul. So we launched a little bit over 11 years ago out of one of our many partnering churches here in the city. We have, since our heartbeat, we've existed to alleviate physical and spiritual poverty through gospel restoration. And very simply put, we really want to focus on the downtown area of Bowling Green by doing with the poor rather than for the poor. We've learned through many people that have been doing this much longer than us that when you do something for someone that they can do themselves, ultimately, you end up doing more harm than good. You ultimately increase their poverty. Many studies have shown that poverty is not rooted in just material lack, though it is a major symptom. And addiction is not the main issue in poverty, but rather what we have seen over the years, it's broken relationships. When we see that broken relationship with our Creator, which ultimately then breaks our relationship with ourselves, others, and all of creation, not understanding then how do we put things back together. We believe at Hope House, because of Jesus, he has come to make all things new and to heal those broken relationships. But very transparently, we want to build bridges in ways that we can partner with a person so that they can accomplish the things that they want to do. We really believe in a person's human dignity and value, but unfortunately through systemic issues, through generational poverty, through chronic poverty, it is hard to see one's dignity and value. And so when we can create ways to be able to build that bridge with somebody again, we can begin to see those relationships be restored. So we do that through ways like Jobs for Life, international-based nonprofit out of Raleigh, North Carolina. It's extremely influential in helping the common person to the person who's had a felony on the record for 20 to 30 years or more. We do that. It's an 8-week class that gathers a couple times a week. We do that here on site at Hope House. We do it at the Warren County Jail for both men and women, and then also for our men in our program living ministry, and soon for our women as well. And then we do Faith and Finances. There's a 12-week financial literacy course, understanding why has God given us money and how do we use it in a way that heals our relationships. And if we know one thing about money, it can definitely break a relationship really, really fast. And so Faith and Finances is critical, but also we have roadblocks like transportation. So if a person graduates Faith and Finances, they can join our Driver Ready program. They can purchase cars from us that have been donated by our neighbors. Then we set up income-based payments with no interest financing. And it's a great way that we can remove that roadblock for that person, but also they can begin to get to a better paying job because they can drive instead of walk 2 minutes to a job. They now can drive 15, 20 miles to a job to make twice as much money, which then infuses the local economy. But for Jobs for Life students, just because you graduate, you may have issues where you can't get to work still. So we have a Ready to Work shuttle. We're give you a little bit of exciting news. Just for the last fiscal year, if we take the average 20 riders that have ridden, they have infused over $500,000 back into our local economy. So we pick up riders at Hope House. We take them to and from the South Industrial Park or the North Trans Park, and they ride with us 6 days a week for all 3 shifts. And so we've seen that be a great tool that's removed a barrier for many people. We've seen that one worker impacts 20 lives. And so the more that we can see a person get back to work, see a person being able to see something that they thought they never could accomplish, it changes the landscape, not just for them, but their families. And even the places where they're now able to go and spend those resources to help the local economy and their fellow man. And so there's other ways that we help. Affordable Christmas is coming up. We want to see a parent see dignity restored in giving gifts. And so we have Christmas stores across our county. Parents come to pick, purchase, wrap, and give gifts to their children themselves. And it's a beautiful way that on Christmas morning, a parent can look at their children and go, man, I did this. No stranger came and brought you gifts, but I was able to do this. And through the generous contributions of the community, we're able to sell those gifts at $9 a kid. They get 6 gifts. But just the opportunity to make an exchange for gifts changes the landscape for that dad, that they're not looking at their children and going, man, I didn't give you his gifts. I'm once again reminded that I'm a failure. I can't do it myself. And so Affordable Christmas is a very transformative way, but tangible way that we've seen some incredible work happen. We do common assistance in crisis situations. We have a couple enterprises that we started over the years, our community store in Old Houchins grocery store, and then also our new leaf business that we'll talk about shortly. So I could go on and on and on, but one of the big things that God has allowed us to do at the beginning in 2015 was our program Living for Men's residential recovery treatment program. It's been hard, to be honest, but man, we have seen some testimonies that have come out that have just absolutely blown us away, and God continues to restore those relationships in that aspect. So that's probably too long. Sorry.
No, Brian, I remember when Rand and I visited Hope House, that really impacted me a lot, the things that you talked about with the Christmas program, and the fact that your Christmas program really does respect the human dignity of people, because people need accountability. A grown-up with children wants to, feel like they are providing for their child, and that they really, and people, no matter what kind of situation they've been in, the dignity of work, the dignity of getting out in the world and actually providing for yourself, that can't just be provided for you. You have to kind of earn that. And I really was impressed that day with the pillars of wellness that you talked about, with, meeting people's emotional and spiritual needs to try to help them to get back into life, the financial program. I think that it's probably, as you said, also impacted so many more people in Bowling Green that are employers who are now employing these folks. They are out like living testimonies in Bowling Green of people who have found a way back from a dark place and are now working and contributing. And we live in a world now, sadly, where for a lot of employers, it is hard to find sober workers sometimes. So, I remember talking to another person in another part of Kentucky, and they said, their clean and sober workforce was actually very much in demand because they were reliable. And so I just applaud all the work that you're doing, the transportation, taking down the roadblocks like transportation, so that it's not so easy for someone to just give up and say, well, I really can't get a job because of this. So I think what you're doing is great. I think it's succeeding where others fail for that reason. Would you agree that you're addressing a lot of needs that oftentimes I think we just say people can go to rehab or whatever, and you wonder, why isn't it working? Why do you think, what is the number one thing that you really believe when you see a success story? What do you think made it work and made it click for that individual more than the times that it fails?
Yeah, I think it's one thing to say, and I tell my staff all the time, it's one thing to say someone's creating God. It's another thing to treat them as being created in the image of God. I think it's two different things. I think secondly, we're connecting with that person to a point that we're saying, hey, there's an open road ahead, and let's move forward together. Versus saying, hey, here's just another band-aid on your life. And so yeah, one word that comes to me when those happen is just redemption. It's second chances, it's restoration, it's all of those things encompassing together, that we see, that just honestly encourages us as staff. I remember a story about Candace, who graduated Jobs for Life in the Warren County Jail. And we were just, I can remember, I think it was a week that we were just exhausted. We had a lot of bad things happen that week. And she literally came to her door and she just said, hey, I graduated Jobs for Life in the Warren County Jail. I was told by my champions in the class to come to Hope House as my first stop, and I'm here. Can you help me find a job? And we were just like, yes, we need a sense of encouragement and a sense of a story of redemption. And she's just been a voice of encouragement for our staff. And it's for us, it's like, man, this isn't about an us versus them. It's like, man, we want to walk together and realize that we all have areas of life that need to be restored. And so, yeah, I mean, that's the best way I can answer that question.
Well, speaking of your example, now that you have expanded your program Living for Women, I'm curious, do you see a difference in the needs of women as compared to men who are dealing with addiction or dependency issues?
Yeah, so just to help all the viewers and listeners out there, we are in the construction phase. Thankfully, we were laying some base grade asphalt today. I was over there with my buddy flying a drone and taking cool pictures, but we are in construction phase. But I think to best answer your question, though we're not serving women in residency yet, as we're in the planning construction phase, there's been a lot of study, a lot of evaluation, a lot of planning, hours and hours of planning to really answer that question. I think John Calloway can best answer that question for you and to represent Hope House on that.
Yeah, so the question as it relates specifically to women versus men in the recovery, and one of those things that I know when we first started into this work that we assumed the women's success rates would be so much higher than the men's success rates, and sadly there's not a lot of data that actually backs that up, which is confusing, it's heartbreaking to be honest. So we anticipate much of the same early on struggles that we experience with our men's program as women's program. Some of the ways that we have laid groundwork on the front end to avoid some of those pitfalls that women's recovery often face is the depression that comes with and the anxiety that ladies often have to struggle with as they're going through recovery, especially what we look at as far as long-term recovery is the automatic termination of parental rights or TPRs and that type of thing. And so one of the ways that we are doing we will do our women's recovery program a little different than our men's recovery program is that we will actually have the ladies on site with the ability to bring at a certain point, bring their children under their care while they are still connected to our program. And so that'll be a huge thing. When we first started thinking about long-term recovery and long-term recovery program for women, as a foster parent, I'm aware that if a child is in state's care for 12 out of any 15-month period, then there's an automatic TPR or termination of parental rights. So while we would agree with that in so many ways, it kind of will terrify a lot of our ladies from pursuing the long-term treatment that we and they would both know and that is proven to be much more successful for a long-term base of sobriety. So we had to work with DCBS and start having those conversations very, very early on. Okay, what does that reintegration of the family unit begin to look like for our ladies and their children, and how do we make sure that we are being a positive and not another hindrance, because we know how desperate they are just to get life back right again. Now, it doesn't mean that they won't struggle again in the future, but I've told literally hundreds of families over these last 5 years, your loved one hates addiction as much as you do. They just don't know how to get out of it. And so no addict ever wanted to become an addict, and no addict who's in the midst and throes of addiction and dependency wants to stay there. And so then how do we help get them out of a place they don't want to be, but they simply cannot get out of? And so that's why we've built such a life encompassing program. And our program is I think aptly named Program Living, because it takes a complete restructuring of daily life in order to help someone break these chains of addiction dependency that they've often spent years, if not decades, finding themselves wrestling with more and more.
I can see that. I assume that you have to work closely with organizations in the justice system, like the public advocates, judges, and Commonwealth Attorney's Office. How have you seen them respond to your work, especially as it relates to termination of parental rights or giving women and men second chances with their kids?
Sure. Yeah. From the very first day we did a ribbon cutting here in Warren County, we were just blessed by having a couple of just sweet souls from our local Warren County Department of Public Defense that were here to let us know they wanted us here. They wanted to help us. They were on our side in the work that we were doing, which was amazing. And it really began opening doors that we thought would take years to get open, that were opened very quickly. Now, that was with the Department of Public Defense wanting to work with us because they want to give their clients an option to get out. We had to prove ourselves by hard work and dedication on our side to the public defenders, to the prosecutors and to the judges and to probation and parole as well, so that they understood we wanted to help, but at the same time, we refused to be another person just adding to the problems. We wanted to help, but we refused to be to be another someone who's just here to allow these struggles to continue. And so we had to set up very strict guidelines, very strict approaches to a person's life, and understand, as heartbreaking as it is, that we were going to have to hold a very hard line with people's willingness to follow our program. And I think over the last several years that has shown itself to be appreciated by the judicial system. A lot of judges only refer to us for long-term treatment. Some certainly prefer us for long-term treatment. And, we know when we can present our program to a prosecutor and to a judge and to probation and parole, that they understand up front, should a person follow our guidelines, they will be successful. And so we've been able to really rest in that. And I would dare say our program is online, if not better than any other program in the state of Kentucky. And we don't say that, haphazardly. We say that because we have seen it work in radically transforming lives of men and families all across the state.
That's awesome. That's amazing. I know now you're also launching a new program focusing on young people and students, the new LEAF program, I think it's called, helping students gain work experience and transition into full-time employment. Do either one of you all want to speak to that program?
Excuse me. Program Living for Men, work is a key part, and in Hope House, work and seeing work restored is a key part of the organization. And so for a lot of our men that are coming in our program, when they're entering in, they've spent many years not being able to keep that job and sustain that job, and ultimately been told that they weren't worthy of a job because of their past. And so New Leaf is a very unique way that we can offer immediate work for a program living resident when they come in. Week 2, after their first 2 weeks of the program, they get hired into New Leaf. And New Leaf basically is a service maintenance and repair company where we're able to take the gifts of our men in program living and attach them to contracts and jobs that are needing to be serviced in the community. So it could be anywhere from a private citizen needing a fence built or a deck repaired or treated to where we also uniquely this year we were able to partner with Bowling Green City's Parks and Rec Department. We're able to mow 5 of their parks, and they have an incredible contract. We're able to reduce the Bowling Green taxpayer of having to pay in to the city was in a crunch where they were having to reduce their overhead, and they saw an opportunity that our men could come into New Leaf and mow 5 different parks of the city, and our plans to expand this next coming year. So New Leaf is it's cool because we're not trying to force a square peg in a round hole. Rather, we're saying, how has God gifted you? And then how can we marry those gifts to jobs that are needed out in the community? And uniquely to Bowling Green, handyman services are far and few between. And most of your large construction companies, maintenance companies are looking for those big contracts, and they don't care about going in and repairing Mrs. Smith's fence or doing anything from pressure washing. And so we're able to capitalize on those types of capitalize on the industry by sending our men. They work Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays. And because New Leaf has grown, the plan is a person works in that for 6 months, and then the last 6 months they go and gain full-time employment as they've graduated onto phase 3 in program living. But we've been growing as New Leaf, that we've been able to hire 2 of our people full-time to be able to work with us after their phase 1 and 2 into phase 3 and 4. So yeah, and then with the women, we're evaluating what enterprise to start for them. Some will graft into New Leaf as it grows. Some of them will start another enterprise. We've really thrown out a lot of interesting ideas. And so the next plan for New Leaf is to launch into partnering with manufacturing companies to do work that is such as light assembly, repackaging, repurposing work that they need done to reduce a company's hourly wage per unit cost. And so we can do that on site at Hope House. And so we're looking to see how that can expand not just to program living men and women, but also to people in the community who are enrolled in our Jobs for Life class. So we look forward to launching that in the coming next year. So it's a lot of stuff, but God is blessing it. And we are wrestling through the difficulties of that. As you know, I think at one point, like a little bit over last year, we had 12 to 13 employees. But when we're turning in our 401k assessment, we had like 60 employees on staff, and it's like, well, what just happened? So it's pretty cool. It's pretty neat that we can employ those types of people. So
that's fantastic. I love the name. I love the symbolism. Sometimes all it takes is that first job, that first opportunity to kind of show what you can do, give somebody a chance. I love the fact that you're serving the needs of Bowling Green and the city and saving the taxpayers money. It's just such a perfect win-win. I really applaud you both for the amazing work that you're doing here in Bowling Green. And it's just fantastic to talk to you today and get an update on all the new things on the horizon as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And we appreciate y'all's partnership and to being able to take the funds and resources that have been given to us to impact more lives. Like, we just can't wait to continue to report on incredible things that are happening here.
Can't wait to hear it. God bless you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.